This is Your Pain Game podcast, where we talk about the game of living in and with chronic pain and trauma, getting to the heart of how to heal. I am your host, Lyndsay Soprano. On this show, I plan on discussing with doctors, chronic pain patients, holistic practitioners, loved ones, and anybody that is interested in having their voice heard in the chronic pain and trauma world that we live in. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a doozy today, guys. We are talking about vulnerability today, amongst many other things. Vulnerability to me used to feel kind of like a liability. And it felt like being on the cover of a tabloid magazine, especially with my wild shenanigans. You know, I probably would have been, if I would have been famous, I would have been the one on the cover, like wearing a see-through outfit, like walking out of a stranger's building with one shoe in my hand and maybe panties in my purse, right? Fairly exposed. And when we talk about things that are chronic in our lives, whether it be pain, whether it be addiction, whether it be divorce, whether it be death, whatever it is, that being exposed and being vulnerable is really hard to do. And when starting the show, as I've talked about, vulnerability is the only thing that has to be at the center of what I do here, because if I'm not vulnerable and honest and open, then what the hell am I doing here, right? But that's also why it makes change hard, because you're worried about being vulnerable and taking those risks and making those jumps and making those shifts, even if they're small little baby shifts, which I think are the most important ones because they lead to big, huge changes. But, you know, change is hard. And when we wear all these different skins and we're these different people for all these different people that are in our lives around us, I feel that I have had a life of being somebody for everybody else but me. And that's been something that's been a challenge and something that I have not cowered into any longer, because now it is time to make more lifestyle changes. I've made tons of them. There's more along the way. And I know as we get older, they're harder because we're set in our ways. And we definitely are set in our ways. My goodness God. I mean, when you were a young kid, could you have imagined like spending this amount of time like and dealing with loss and divorce and financial troubles and health scares and food and school shootings and family division, political hell, social media? I mean, my God, it was so nice growing up with a pager. But, you know, we're going to remain stuck if we don't shake things up. And as someone that's always been a little bit rebellious in nature, I've always felt like I was shaking things up, good, bad, or ugly. By nature, that was me. So here we are. It is focusing time on the me and the me in my life, right? But in order to do that, I have to have some partners in crime. So as I reflected on my health journey and finding people like my guest today, I have found that the most important thing to do is to focus on my well-being, because the rest will fall into place from that. And I have been doing it the back-asswards way for a very long time. I mean, what could be more important than my well-being in my life, just like my guest and his? So anyways, we're going to talk a little bit about vulnerability. We're going to get a little crazy here. And we're going to talk about the fear of lifestyle changes and all that comes with that, and how this amazing man who has more energy than me is going to talk to you guys about it. Are you guys ready for it or what? Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my guest today, Dai Manuel. Hello, darling.
Hello, Lyndsay. It's just so good to be here again. I swear, I just finally came down from our call from a few weeks ago because I've been vibing high ever since. But I'm fully jacked up again. Way to go.
Well, when you
this is great.
It is totally great. And so we're going to be competing for some airtime, and I'm well aware of that. So I have a sticky that I have made that says "Don't interrupt" specifically for you.
Nice. Oh, I need one of those too.
Tough sometimes. So I'm going to give you a little bit of some kudos here. So Dai is an empowering dadpreneur, and this will mean something to you. But he is happily dating his wife and loving up on his two daughters, whose names, by the way, are Chardonnay and Brie Lynn. And everybody that is close to me knows how amazing those names are for children. And we'll get into some of that, why those kids are named that way. Oh, the fun begins. He is running a mentoring lifestyle businesses. He coaches high performances to realize their best selves and is on a mission, which I love, to inspire and impact 1 million people across the globe to lead a functionally fit life through education, encouragement, and community. And when I say 1 million people, I feel like you've already done that, because how could you not have already touched that many people with your vibe? He is a published
Well, thank
author
you.
of Whole Life Fitness Manifesto, which you absolutely need to pick up from Amazon. I grabbed it, I read it. It is wonderful. And he also has been a TEDx speaker amongst many other things. And he knows the struggle on how to juggle through life, which I know I've dropped many, many balls in the struggling of the juggling of this little lady over here. But with a foundation of health at the core. So here we go. I'm rolling out the red carpet. I'd like to get started with you, Wackadoo. Where you started in your childhood and your struggles with your weight and your self-esteem, and let's take the road from there. We're going to start sad, and then we're going to get
Wow.
happy.
All right. All right. Well, it's first of all, Lyndsay, your energy is phenomenal. But beyond that, it's like even when the camera's not on, you are cranking, and but in a really positive way, which is awesome because that kind of energy is often it recharges us at the same time as we're putting it out.
Sure.
Like it's that because again, it's that connective vibe that we all share amongst one another, and whatever you're putting out, like honestly, I'm just trying to reflect back what you're already throwing down. So
Well, I appreciate that. Thank
it's
you.
awesome. It's
Well, it's
awesome.
interesting when I took a break off for about a month and a half because I had a bunch of banked episodes. I found myself actually pretty damn sad because I
Why's that?
wasn't ramping myself up to do this. I wasn't like doing my performing with my buddies on camera, even though you're my buddy now. But you know what I mean? It's one of those things that brings me a lot of joy. So thank you. It's not about me.
Well, regardless, you're a wonderful example of what's possible when you really not only stop trying to avoid the hard stuff in our lives, but you actually start to embrace them. And it's not a matter of, hey, I've got this thing. So there's all these reasons why I can't do certain things. But it's like, well, no. If anything, there's just more reasons why I continue to push on, I'm similar. I have a chronic autoimmune condition, which we'll get to later. But like you and everyone else listening to this right now, we've all had our fair share of struggles.
Yeah. And if you haven't, then you're just a big liar.
Well, I'm just going to say, like, you're not going to get out of this thing called life without some.
Yeah.
And if you take a page from Buddha, it's like the only thing that we really know to be for certain is that things change and you're going to experience some suffering.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, that being said, why don't we start at the beginning? And, I got to be honest, Lyndsay, the first 9 years of my life was very idyllic. It was, for lack of better description, from a 9-year-old's perspective, I would have said it was perfect. Great relationship with my family. My mom and dad were, from what I thought, madly in love still. There was just we lived in a bubble, like this bubble, like kids often do. And I think that's what we do as parents is we often put a bubble around our kids. We want to protect them, shield them for as long as we can. But I remember coming home after school one day and, I'm at 9, not even quite 10 yet. My brother's a couple years my junior. It's like mid-afternoon, and my dad's car's in the driveway. My mom's home too. And we're like, well, that's kind of weird. I mean, my dad's, a workaholic. We'll just say that. He worked all the time. And here we are at age 9, me at 9, and my parents usher us into the living room. They drop a bomb on us. The bomb is, yay, we're separating. And they had the initial premise was like, oh, we're just going to take a break, right? And it's like, okay.
Hey, I'm 9. I already know that you're lying to me about that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. You can already just tell the body language, the energy, and I just remember breaking down, sobbing. Just this felt like the rug was pulled out from under me, as the cliche goes. Like very much so. I felt my world was just rocked instantly.
Well, especially at that age, because 9 years old, you're pretty damn smart when you're in 4th grade. Like my parents got divorced when I was 2, so I remember, but I don't remember.
So to date myself, I'm 46, almost 47 now, and this would have been back in the mid 80s. Okay, early to mid 80s, and we didn't have something called the internet, at least not the way that it is now.
No.
And also back then, there was a lot of negative stigmatization around divorce. Unlike today, where most relationships actually, and more relationships end in divorce than actually succeed. So, now there's plenty of resources. There's groups. There's support mechanisms in place to support families that have to navigate these changes. I really didn't have those. And my parents, to be fair, they did the best they could, but they were in the thick of it. Now being someone in his mid 40s in a long-term relationship, I can appreciate what my parents must have been navigating.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what I mean? But back then I didn't. I had no idea. I was like, man, you just totally messed up my world. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we're the same age. And so I get it. Our parents were faced with like, well, okay, just come home safe. How about it? It was like there was no, like, I know with my family, it was just my mom was doing her MBA. My dad was a workaholic running his own business. I was going to school. I was a kid. I was, and it's just that same deal where you kind of like, well, I think we did the best that we could under the circumstances that we were given, but we didn't have any tools then. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard, right? Like, I mean, at any age, I think it's hard. I mean, as children, we look up to our parents. They're our first heroes, role models, really examples of adulting, right? And all the things that come with that stuff. And,
Yeah.
I learned, though, very quickly that, I was very, let's just put it this way. I went internal. Like, I became very introverted. I didn't know how to express what I was dealing with, and that overwhelm, that sadness, that sort of this gap that was created by this, event, a life event. And I learned something very quickly because my brother and I started having a lot more autonomy because my mom had to work longer. She's trying to support my brother and I. My dad was just still doing his thing. We lived with my mom full time. We'd see my dad every other weekend, maybe, if he wasn't working. And so this is going to sound a little bit, I don't know. I'm just going to say it. At the time when this is all happening, I just wanted to escape it all. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of us feel that way anyways, even as adults. I mean, not to mention children, but like when animals get hurt, what do? They hide, they isolate. And we are animals too in that right. And so I found myself going internal, isolating, starting to do things that were very passive. So video games, movie watching, because those gave me instant dopamine hits, as I can explain now, but I felt good in the moment when I was doing those things, and I could, just shield out everything around me. And then here's the crazy part, Lyndsay, and this is where the wheels of the bus fell off, was I also realized I could manipulate my emotions and my psychology by eating certain things. And it wasn't like I was sitting around, hey, Lyndsay, can you pass me some more salad, please? Okay. That was something I never said, by the way.
I don't say it now either. Okay. If there's one thing about functional diagnostic testing that I have loved on my journey over the past year or so. I am not supposed to eat lettuce because my body does not like it. It is amazing. It's the best test
I
result
want
I've
that sign
received.
up. No,
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't have salad. I'm allergic to lettuce.
Yeah, no veggies over here. No, I just so you can appreciate this too, though. Like, and I think a lot of people that are listening, I know if I was to ask, and I know it's rhetorical, no one can answer me right now, but maybe you're talking to yourself in the car. It's all good if you do that. But like, have you ever recognized that there's certain things that we can ingest that instantly manipulates our emotions, and often what seems as positive? Yeah, and there might be some illegal stuff too that helps that. And
Amen.
But here, at age 9. The thing that I had access over, but also I had complete control over, was what I ate and what I was doing passively. And I learned that, these foods that were very poor in nutrition value, yet high in calories, well, I craved the heck out of them. And I had them every single time I could because it gave me this sense of escape, a sense of purpose as well, which is odd to admit, but that set me on this trajectory that I was on for 6 years following that. So from 9 to 15, we can all do the math on this. Passive lifestyle, lots of extra calories, not healthy calories. I ballooned. The point at just before I turned 15, my mom took me to our doctor, Dr. Quinn, and our GP, and he pulled my mom aside. And he's like, Benny Ann, Dai is morbidly obese, and for me, and this Dr. Quinn, he's an interesting character. He's now long since retired, but he had his door ajar when he had that conversation with my mom, right? And I could fully hear them in the hallway,
exactly.
on about that. And I didn't understand what obese meant, nor did I understand what morbidly meant. But I knew that they were referencing me, and I knew how I felt. I didn't need to be reminded about how I felt about myself, And I was depressed. I was dealing with a lot of social anxiety. And on top of that, I avoided things, especially things with people. Like, because every time I walked into a room, I'd see people laughing. I just thought that they were laughing at me. They could have been halfway through a joke and laughing at what they did last week. But instantly, my mind would go to that thing. They must be talking about me. They're laughing at me. They're pointing at me. And this is this place that I found myself in. And, ideations of, wouldn't it be easier to wake up tomorrow and not wake up? Like, wake up, but don't wake up, and that's how I thought as a kid, especially as a teenager. I was just like, yeah, there's got to be an easier way. And maybe that's the easiest way to go. But never acted on it. To be fair, I knew I was loved by my family. And I also was extremely scared of the idea of the finality of death. I just was like, no, thank you. I got to figure out another way.
Yeah, exactly. Because it
And
is
that's
scary to have
when
those
things were at
thoughts.
its lowest.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it ever,
Yeah.
right?
It's scary because
I don't know, like Lizzie, for you, what's food been for you? Like food. I'm just curious, like if you had similar relationship.
not when it came to mine was alcohol. I
Yes.
my
Yeah, we'll get
family,
to that.
yeah, of course we did. We've got Chardonnay and Brie Brie Lynn for crying out loud. Come on now,
Oh,
honey.
yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. For me, food has played an interesting role in my adulthood. I always ate very well. My parents had good food for me. I was an only child, so it was just the three of us. So health wasn't that, it was always at the forefront. I was always very active in skiing, hiking, and biking, yoga, and all the things. And then I started getting sick over time, and we didn't really know what was happening, and and now we found out. But over the past 7-8 years, what ended up happening with me and food is I had a different kind of disordered eating where I'm nauseous all of the time because of pain and the smell of food and all of it. So I ended up creating my own little cute eating disorder. And it's something that I am just now kicking. And I didn't know that it was happening. It was just all of a sudden I've atrophied. And I know a lot of it is because I'm not doing the things I used to do. I can't walk my dogs. I can't do these things. Not yet. This is not an if, but a when. And so for me, the relationship with food has changed for the negative over the past couple years. And then it's only just recently that I've started to actually try to nourish my body, but doing it with intention and being mindful about it. Even if I'm not eating a ton, I want to make sure that what I'm doing, I sat down the other day and I was like, all right, little strawberry, you are going to nourish my nerves. You are going to help my stomach.
Yes.
And it's so
Yes.
interesting when you sit and you chew and you go through that with your food and have a better relationship with it, where things start to shift. So I've actually found that I'm sleeping a little bit better.
That's amazing.
I know. And some of
Big
that's from
wins, big
cutting
wins.
out. Yeah. I mean, I cut out hard alcohol a couple years ago. I drink wine. But I find that if I drink wine too late at night, I'm up. So there's all of these different relationships that I've had specifically with food and alcohol. But right now I'm trending positively in the right direction when it comes to giving my body fuel instead of letting my body eat my muscles and eat my body away from itself.
And I love that you reference it as fuel, because that's all food is, right? It's
Yeah.
just fuel. It's just fuel. And yeah, there's higher octane and lower octane, okay? and there's even clean burn and electric, right? So there's all these options, and it can be really a challenge for any of us to navigate. And it's because there is a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of conflicting information, especially that talks about food timing, right? Talk about eat this, don't eat that. I mean, there's an entire book series put out that talks about all this
There are
stuff. And yet,
encyclopedias of books
oh my
out there.
gosh,
Give me a break. We know how to eat, guys. We do.
we do. It's not like it's something that we've just picked up. I mean, we do it all the time, every day, but it is exhausting. Because when we look at things, and this is sort of I know we're going off on a tangent here, but it's the diet culture that really aggravates me, and being that I was someone that suffered within that culture, if you will, that got chewed up and spat out and regurgitated again and again in that thing, because the understanding of what a diet isn't what it actually means. We see this as a general population as something for weight loss.
Right. You talk about that in your book. You talk about that in your book, that people come to you and it's like, weight loss is my journey. This is what it is. It's like, hey, my journey is to get healthy, and weight gain is actually what has to happen to me. So
Yes, exactly. But that's good that you recognize that, but it's also different, because a lot of us just believe, we hear the word diet and we think automatically it means eating to lose weight or not eating at all, right? And so at age 9, I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that if I ate certain foods, especially like Costco muffins,
sugar. Yeah, I was going to say
those
cupcakes.
Costco muffins, those things were like cakes, right? And they're like 1,500 calories in one of those. And it would be often I'd have 2 in a day on top of everything else, So that's like 3,000 calories just in that extra.
That's like what I eat in a week.
Oh, yeah. Like, trust me, man, I was a big boy for a reason, right? So, but at age 15, just it eventually got to that breaking point. And to just surmise, and if you want, I can go into a little bit of detail, but I'll just tell you right now, what ultimately happened was I became petrified. of the idea of not changing,
Oh, yes.
more so than the idea of changing.
Uh-huh.
Like that's really what happened. I was so afraid that if I didn't start doing something different, life isn't going to be any better than it is right now at age 15. In fact, by the time I'm 20 and, right around that point in time, at 15, you're in high school, you're talking to those guidance counselors that are trying to, sort of guide you to making a decision of where you're going to go after school. And so I'm having these conversations. I'm like, I don't like to even think about that right now.
Yeah, you're like, I'm
because
thinking about
yeah,
Denny's. I'm thinking about going to Denny's right now.
give me a grand slam, please. And yeah, so it's that was it. That was life. And I remember being at my father's, and this event. It's still like it's just emblazoned on my mind. Right? It was so both cathartic, but also recognizing I was at an ultimate low. And I was at my dad's place. I was having a shower, and for some reason, my dad was trying to usher my brother and I out for some sort of timeline. I don't know what, I don't even remember what we were doing that day, but I just remember he was like hammering on the door, like, come on, we got to get going. We got to be out of here in like 20 minutes. And I historically would always have long showers. And the reason being, I'd always turn the water on extra hot right before I get out. Because by the time I would get out of that shower to towel off, even if I caught just under my peripheral, my reflection, it'd be covered in condensation. The mirror was always covered. So I never had to look at myself.
Oh my gosh. I said I wasn't going to cry on this episode, and now I want to sob. That is the saddest thing I've ever heard. Oh,
that was me. That was my bathroom, my shower hack.
you
And
poor
I did
baby.
it all the time. All the time. And there's also a reason, like, there's like 2 photos of me of during that period when I was in that state of unhealth, because I avoided the camera. I'm just so grateful that I didn't have to deal with what we deal with today. People are walking around with better cameras in their back pocket than I ever had to worry about back then,
That's a valid point.
Oh yeah, and that's why I really do. Now being a father of 2 young adults, I'm like, I just don't know how the hell they navigated all that too, because they grew up in this extra pressure of this constantly being on.
Oh yeah, just
Society of
Instagram
ours, right?
in and of itself
Yeah.
is a reason for
Oh,
kids. I mean, I'm so glad I didn't have that. I have enough self-esteem issues going on. I don't need it. It's bad enough that I have to look at Kim Kardashian everywhere.
it's true though.
I know.
Like it's hard. It's really hard. And so here I was, 15, getting out of the shower because my dad's rushing me, and I realized I hadn't got to do my hack. And I started toweling off, and I could see my peripheral. I could see me. And I have no idea why, but that day I turned and I looked at myself. And I don't recall the last time doing that, but I knew instantly. I was like, I do not like this person I'm looking at. And I can't believe there's sort of this disbelief. I'm like, is that me? Am I even looking at me? Because I just never wanted to acknowledge where I was, nor my role in getting there. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So ignorance is bliss, people, right?
amen.
It's just easier to sleep and deal with the hardships if I just pretend that I'm not aware of them.
Tomorrow's another day. I'll do it
Oh,
tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow.
yes.
I'll do it
Oh,
tomorrow. Oh
gosh.
my God.
Oh, yeah. What?
Annie really blew it.
Totally, right? The sun never damn came out. What the hell? Like, I don't know. But regardless, here I was looking at me. I started to do the scan down, getting to my man boobs, continuing down to my gut, which was overhanging, my waist. And, by the time I got back up to look at myself in the face again, I was toweling off for a second time because it was like Niagara Falls. I was gushing. Like it was, now I can honestly say it was a cathartic cry or more of a sob session, because it was my first time not only seeing myself in that state, but actually acknowledging my role in it. So if you know what I mean, like I knew that this is where I am right now. It doesn't need to be where I end, but I got myself to this destination. No, and I used to try to blame everybody else, right? I blame my dad. My dad buys junk food. Dad, it's your fault I'm overweight. You keep buying this junk food. And he's like, well, you keep eating it. I go, well, yeah. And I kept asking him to buy it, right?
Yeah.
And so I came out of that shower. I toweled off. I went and changed. And then I immediately went into the living room and I found my dad. And I said, Dad, I want to get healthy. And I remember grabbing the rolls on my stomach and being, I don't want to be like this anymore. I don't like how I feel. I don't like how I look. I really just don't like me. Do you think I can get healthy? My dad's like, well, yeah, what can I do to help you? And to be fair, that was the best thing he could have asked, because up to that point, my parents were always trying to be very positive and give me suggestions and ways that they could support me with weight loss. But every time they came to me saying, "Hey," my mom especially, she was an RN. She's like, "Hey, mom," I think her name was Sue, or was it Tracy? I don't remember. But she's like, "My friend Sue, she's a dietitian. She'd be happy to sit down with you and talk to you about food and ways to eat better." And I'm like, "You're just telling me that you don't like me the way I am. You're just telling me that I need to change."
Yeah. You can
And it
tell Sue
wasn't,
to just blow it.
but that was it. That's what I was. I would act out. I would just be not a very pleasant person at times, very moody because I was dealing with a lot of emotions constantly. And my dad was like, "What can we do for you?" And I was like, "You know what? I used to like riding a bike as a kid. Do you think we can go get me a bike?" And he's like, "Sure, let's do that." We literally, whatever that appointment was that we had, we didn't do it. He took me to the bike store. We got me a bike.
Good
I
dad.
came home that afternoon. I went for a ride. It was about 3 blocks, and then I had to turn and go home because I was gassed. But regardless, I went out for a short ride, and mentally, I made this shift. I made a commitment that I'm going to try to get healthier. And so that was sort of what began as a very long and lengthy journey with lots of ups, downs, side to sides. But regardless, I was very committed to getting healthy. It took 20 months. All right. So it took about 6 years to put all that weight on. It took about 20 months to release it, to find a new lifestyle, to get into a new sort of way of being, if you will. But everything was focused on the outside from what people could see. Like that's all I focused on. And, my extrinsic. So for those that are aware, we have these things called intrinsic and extrinsic motivations. There's the internal motivations, then we have the external motivators. For me, externally, I wanted a girlfriend. Okay. Like
Right?
I did. I
I can
wanted
see
someone
this
to want
thing.
me. Well, but you know what, Lindsay? It was more than that. I just wanted somebody to want me,
Totally. Hold your
Like I
hand, walk
wanted
in
to
the
feel
school.
wanted.
Of course. Yeah, we all do. We all
Yeah.
have that innately innocent. Even on my darkest days, overall, I still set my alarm clock. I wake up, I shower, I put my freaking mascara on, I blow dry my hair, I put on some lip gloss, and I call it a day and I get going, even though I want to lay in bed and feel like sorry for myself in the morning. Because mornings are the hardest for me because I have to wake up in the morning and make a decision that I'm going to do this day because I know how much pain I'm going to be in throughout the day. And the morning is the hardest. And then, from like midnight to 3 is the second part of the day. That's very hard, but, you have to be your own cheerleader and your own advocate, and you have to be intentional about what you're doing. And we all stink at it sometimes. So don't beat yourself up about it. We all
Heck
go
yeah.
backwards. Sometimes I
Well
have to
said.
go one step forward and 9 steps back to learn another lesson for the 30th time on the same damn thing I should have learned from before. But you keep on going. You keep on going. And it's scary. And the suicidal tendency side of stuff, we've talked about it on the show before, and I can bring it up here too. But it's very scary when you've been in chronic pain or in any kind of pain where they put you on any kind of medication or they put you on things that make you think that you are somebody different than who you are, that you're thinking about doing things because you don't have the tools to work through them, or you feel misunderstood, or you feel vulnerable and so exposed. And by you going and telling your dad, like, I need help, right? That's the hardest thing to do, is just that, asking for help. And at such a young age, it's really neat to hear somebody that had that much, like, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it's fanciful and I can't put it, put it out here. But at such a young age, you were able to figure out what you needed to do. And that's pretty brave for a 15-year-old kid to look in the mirror and go, I don't like this anymore. And I know that I can live better than this. That's awesome.
Well, thank you. And it was a long time coming. And I think anybody that's experienced or is in the process of experiencing or desiring a big change, you can relate to the comment I made about fear, right? Or pain, more appropriately. Like when it hurts bad enough, you're going to get up and off that nail and do something about it, right? It's
Right.
like if you got a splinter in your finger and you can cope, you can just normalize that and go on about your day. But there comes a point where that thing might get infected. It might start to throb. It might start to get really painful to the point where it's like, you know what? I can't just normalize this anymore. I need to do something about this. I got to get this splinter out of my finger because I'm not going to take this pain anymore. I'm not going to accept the normalizing of my life, and especially me in that state of unhealth. And because it was normal, right? Like I think about it, 6 years of my life, and at that point, I got it and started getting. It was like 50% of my time on this planet. I was in
Right.
that
And
state of
you're
unhealth. Of
young,
course, it
though.
was
Right.
normal.
People are like, oh,
Yeah,
big deal.
yeah.
You were a young kid. Blah, blah, blah. No, give me a break. Everybody can hurt from the very beginning of time.
Heck,
Okay.
yes, absolutely, and we do. We do. Like uh, listen, we all navigate that differently, but there's some very real shared emotional responses that we have to certain stimuli, and that we can say, I get you. I understand what you're dealing with, and I can imagine that at times that's also very isolating, because if we feel that no one gets us or understands what we're dealing with, and if we're not willing to open up to share that or articulate that, of course it's going to be very isolating. Of course we're going to feel alone. Of course we're going to feel nobody gets me. But it's like, well, did I ever really tell anybody anything to get? Like, and and that's where you got to sometimes hold up the mirror and say, geez, well, have I made the effort to open up and ask for help? And I know for myself, most of my life, I've been really bad at that. Okay. Like, I'm getting better, but it's been something I've had to consciously and intentionally work on. Yeah. So that was my journey. And by 17, I was healthy, at least from the outside looking in. But internally, I was still dealing with a lot of emotions, and still very withdrawn, isolated. And I started being more social because I was getting invitations. I was getting attention, that validation that I was just starving for. Right. And, but I find myself getting into these social settings, and the anxiety was really bad. I couldn't open up to people. But then magic happened. I went to a bush party, as they do in Ontario. So just outside of Toronto, it's very common. You get bush parties. So I did this bush party, and I'm offered a drink. Oh, this is nice.
Ooh,
Had
yeah,
another one.
baby.
Oh, this is even better. Had a third one. I'm like, oh, those girls, I'm going to go talk to those girls. Oh, those guys over there sitting in that circle talking about stuff. I'm going to go get in the circle with them and start talking to those guys.
Oh, yes.
And
Liquid courage.
oh, like legit, right?
Yeah.
There's truth in that. And all of a sudden, I started engaging with people, but more importantly, they were engaging with me. I thought they were liking me and liking this version of me, to the point that I get invited to other parties, get invited on a date, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, this is good. I need this.
Yeah.
I need more of this. And I learned very early that I believed everybody valued that version of me more than who I was. And so that's what I would prioritize. And that set me in a 15-year journey of abusing alcohol. Yeah.
Went from cupcakes to booze.
Seriously, because they both manipulate your emotions,
100%.
right?
And the sugar.
Totally.
Oh my gosh. So
Oh
I know that you
gosh,
talk
yeah.
about sugar in your book, and I know you've got tools and stuff to help us break our sugar cravings and such. I have just recently noticed within myself that, like, I've been, now that I've started to get an appetite again, and I'm trusting that my stomach's not going to throw it up all over the place. And I'm trusting that my body is actually going to use this to nourish me. I've gotten to the point where just like drinking kind of started this, like, oh, okay, I'm drinking far less than I used to and doing all these things. But I am literally looking for cookies and ice cream every morning and every afternoon. That's not to say that I was drinking every morning and afternoon. It's just
Yeah.
my body in the morning was like, wait a second, you didn't have as much to drink yesterday as you did the day before. What's happening here? So what can we do when we're looking to, because I know there's a lot of people that are listening right now that drink a little bit too much. Come on, be real. Be real. Shake, nod your head, go, yeah, I know. I've been looking at myself in the mirror too, and I'm not young anymore, and I can't do that anymore. And it's like, yeah, hangovers don't work like they used to. Used to be hungover and just study for your finals, and it was good to go.
Right.
So what do you do when you're embarking on quitting something, letting go of something from a health perspective, nutrition, alcohol, and so on? What are some tips that you have that worked for you? Because I know for your energy style, which is similar to mine, there are a lot of people that do still use it for the liquid courage, even though you would never guess that I need it. I am extremely shy. I am so incredibly shy. I don't like but I can sing in front of 20,000 people, no problem. Get me in a room of like 15 to 20 people. My knees are knocking. It is a mess. But if I have a couple glasses of wine, I'm good to go.
Well, I can relate. And thanks for sharing that, because I think that's common for many
Yes.
people out there. Like, alcohol's first introduced as something to have fun, let loose. But we realize when we pull down or tear down some of those inhibitions through that liquid courage, as they say, we can start to do things that maybe we've always wanted to do, but we've been suppressing.
Sure.
Because obviously the skill's in us to do that. But we're getting this sort of blockade that's there preventing us. It gets it out of the way when you have a few drinks, right?
Yeah.
And so it is, that in itself becomes very addictive, is that desire to want to be that person, the one that gets recognized and acknowledged and connected with, because connection is fun. It's one of the highest values we can have as a human species, is that connection with one another. So I can appreciate the position. But when it comes to sugars, and sugars, when you look at, as an example, sugar calories, for every gram of sugar, it's 4 calories. You know, every gram of alcohol, it's 9 calories.
Okay.
So weight to weight, it's treated, sugar, it is like alcohol sugars, as we often refer to it as, it is very much treated like a sugar, but it's a little bit different because it's higher caloric value than what we're typically used to, you know? And so where I'm going with this is recognizing that there's an emotional connection to why you're craving sugars. Like you have to understand, is this an emotional, psychological connection, or is there an actual physical need? And usually it's a combination of all there, all that being said, but we have to recognize what are the triggers that create this response that we need sugar. Because when we think about habits, there's always some sort of trigger. Then we have something in between, right? We have a habit or an action that we take after the trigger. And then there's a result, which is usually a feeling, an experience that we have by doing the thing. And so when you start to recognize what's the trigger, you can start to ask yourself, okay, is there a different habit I can replace that assist that trigger that will still bridge trigger with feeling? It's recognizing the triggers that create the habit and ultimately that emotional response, because we're chasing the feeling. Okay. We're always chasing the feeling. For myself, it was a feeling of reprieve, if you know what I mean. It was this little bit of an escape. It was an opportunity to just forget about everything in my life and just focus on that one action, which in the moment, I'd feel really good. I get that little sugar hit. I'd get that little dopamine hit. I'd feel good. I have those little happy endorphins start floating around in my body. And I'm like, okay, life isn't that bad.
Yeah.
But sure enough, and this is what happens with sugar, you have a dip. You will have a dip. The more refined the sugar, the more pronounced the dip. And I'd have this crash, but I knew really quick, hey, I can fix that. I will eat some more.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly chasing this emotional response. So one, share it with somebody that you care about, then you actually value their input and support. Maybe find a community to join as well and belong to, not just join, but belong to, because belonging is key. You know what I mean, Lyndsay? I know you know what I
Oh
mean,
my
right?
God.
Uh,
Everybody is shaking their head. How many people have joined the gym this year? Are you
oh,
actually using the gym?
and it's easy, right? Because just by doing that one
Totally.
activity, we start to think that, oh, you see, I'm doing something about this.
Yeah.
you know,
I'm paying
unfortunately.
$50 a month for my gym
Oh,
membership and I'm not
thank you.
using it. That's what I'm doing.
And we're doing it to peace of mind, sometimes just to appease somebody else, not
That's right.
ourselves,
Right.
right? And
Right.
again, wrong motivation. But uh, so once you've identified that, you've now found people to support you. The next step is not as challenging as what might most people will think. But if we're talking about sugar specifically, I would recommend that you just go through your home and remove a lot of those sugary treats that you know that late at night, if that's the worst time of day for you, take it out of the house. Like my wife even knows today, I still have a nasty sugar tooth. Like I have a sweet tooth. It's a hard habit to break. Okay. And so we have an agreement. We just don't bring a lot of that stuff into the house. We just don't. And if it's not here, I don't have to worry about it. And in particular, I'm talking about cookies. Okay. I'm a cookie holic. You think Cookie Monster's got a cookie problem? Hell no. He got that from me. All right. Like cookies can be somewhere in the house and I will find them,
Dude, I
and
had
if I
mint
know
chocolate
where,
chip
I'll find
ice
them.
cream for
Oh my,
breakfast yesterday.
oh, hello. Oh, that's so good.
Grader's mint chocolate chip ice cream. So the mint chips are like big ass
Oh,
things of chocolate. It's
oh,
amazing for breakfast. Because I
so
woke up
yummy.
and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna have a couple bites, and then I did. But now my sweetie comes in and he brought 5 pints some from the supermarket. You're
Oh,
not
he is a
helping
sweetie.
me.
Well, I was going to say, sweetie is sweetie, right? I got his
Ay, ay,
awesome. And
ay, Mamma Mia.
oh, but here's the thing. When I expressed to my dad and my mom that I wanted to make these health changes, sure, we went and got me a bike. I started to educate myself in nutrition, and I started going grocery shopping with my mom. I started helping pick out all the foods. I also started to make dinners often for our family, my brother and my mom and I. So I started to educate myself on proper nutrition. And what I realized very quickly was I can feel great eating these healthy foods. I can feel sustained energy and I can make healthier treat options. one of my favorite things, I recommend this to everybody, if you don't have any nut allergies, of course, but like almond butter with freshly sliced apples. One apple with a couple tablespoons of peanut butter, it's a couple hundred calories, but you will feel very satiated, but it also tickles that little sweet tooth that we all have. And so we don't feel like we're constantly depraving ourselves or having to live in this place of no, no, no,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
because that's hard. It's really hard, and once you start to give yourself these healthier options, you start to realize I can do this. And it's the I can do this that I really want people to experience, because once you experience that inner confidence through the clarity you get, because you're also educating yourself, you'll take more decisive action and you'll stop procrastinating as much. Now, I didn't say stop entirely, but you'll find that you start to procrastinate less. And that's what creates the results, is the consistency of actually doing the action. And so, there's lots of stuff you can do on the sugar front, but I think those are the most critical ones, because that is duplicatable and replicatable in any other changes you want to make in your life to follow a similar path.
Yeah, those are really good. And like I said earlier about how those little baby steps, if you take that one little step, like if it is weight loss that you are trying to go after, if it's trying to stop eating, just literally eating mint chocolate chip ice cream for breakfast, if you're trying to stop these kinds of behaviors, pull the mint chocolate chip out and have the apple and the apple and banana or whatever. And so one of the things that I actually just switched doing is in the morning, except for yesterday, because yesterday was a weird morning, but I'm waking up and I'm having some fruit in the morning. And I normally wait to eat, if I'm gonna, until about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where I
You're
am.
practicing consciously intermittent fasting? Like, is that
No,
intentional for you, or
there
just
was
what's happening?
no, it's just what's happened over, I don't even know how long, like
Is that
20
nausea? Is
years.
that
No, it even came on before my pain stuff, because talk about the workaholic business owner by myself doing everything for me, but it really wasn't ever for me. It was for everybody else. And so I would be like, I'd be in my office at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I wouldn't stop, and it'd be 2 o'clock and I hadn't had anything, like nothing. And so I had to make some adjustments in that, even just on time. Like, I've got to put something in my body in the morning. I don't even care what it is right now, just to start that habit. And so setting aside my mint chocolate chip ice cream, doing those things and being intentional about it, it's been a thing. And I've noticed now, if I leave fruit out on the counter sliced up, that my sweetie walks by and eats it as well. So
isn't that awesome?
it is so awesome, because he's the
Yeah.
grab the cookie kind of guy too. So
Yeah.
it's really neat. And you mentioned it in your book as well, about how when you do focus on yourself, it actually ends up helping the relationships that are around you. And it's so true, because when you're working on your own self, all the things that you're taking on, and I'm an empath as well. So I take everybody else's feelings on, and all their mishigas and all their stuff. And I'm just like, oh, mama mia. I've got a lot here now, and then I'm adding everybody else's stuff on top of it. And so it's had to be something, like I said, the baby steps taking away. If it's a person that needs to leave your life, you need to get rid of that person in your life because they are not healthy. If they are your cupcake, those are the things that you have to do, because we do. And the sooner I started getting some of these people that were in my life that were just causing me harm, wow, does that feel good? On the people front, on the food front, on the alcohol front, it can hit every facet of your life if you just start making some small changes. It's really cool.
Well said. It's amazing. This compound effect goes both ways. I share an example, and it's not an exact example, but it just gives people an idea of how this works. And what I mean by that is, if you were having just an extra glass of wine every day, and that wine is above and beyond how many calories you need in a day. Like, so for all of us, just our bodies to function, if we were to stay in bed all day long, our bodies still require calories to do all the things that our body needs to do,
Yeah, like,
like the growth, the
heart,
repair.
your
What?
heart
Yeah,
beating in your
exactly.
chest.
Yes, yes, yes. That whole system's got to keep going, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And it needs calories. And so when you take note of that, but then you add on top of that any of your activities that you do, it adds a little bit more calories that are required. And let's just say you get that exact number every day. Great. Awesome. You're optimal. But if you add on top of that a little bit extra that you don't necessarily need, even if it's only a small glass of wine, 150 calories, you do that every day for a year. And that's going to translate into loosely 5 to 7 pounds of weight gain over a year. It's amazing how that can happen, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's not like we have that extra thing just tonight, and also we wake up tomorrow like, whoa, who's that in the mirror, right? It's not that pronounced. It's gradual over time. But also on the reverse side, and I hope this empowers everyone, is if you were to reduce just 150 calories a day below what you totally need, that creates a little bit of a deficit. that can compound out over time too, which could at the end of the year translate to a loss of 5 to 7 pounds, you know, without even really thinking about it.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, yeah, if you're saying, but if you're not even thinking about it, that's the key. Because for me, if you're always thinking about the mint chocolate chip ice cream that's in the freezer right now, which is now only thing I'm thinking about.
Just go get
Oh
some.
my
I'm here. I'm
gosh,
ready.
help me, Jesus. I'm hot and bothered and I want my ice cream. No, but man, if you just, it is
Mm,
really making that one choice because I know at night I'm like, God, I can't sleep. I'm
mm.
just wired. I'm like, oh, I'll have another glass of wine.
Uh,
You just did it. You just did it for me, right? And like for me, so the weight gain is not scary for me. Outside of if I put more weight on my body, that means there's more weight that's going to is on my feet, and my feet is where my CRPS started, and it's the most painful part of my body. So for me, putting on weight holds a negative connotation, not like other body dysmorphic things. Mine is strictly, well, if I put on more weight, it's going to hurt me more,
you need
which
more
is
pain. Yeah.
also true depending upon the type of weight I'm putting on. So for me, I'm like, I've atrophied a lot, especially in my legs because I'm using my arms so much in a wheelchair. But there's so many little things that I've been changing along the way that I didn't realize that I was really doing. And now I'm at this place where, and I mentioned it on another episode, but that I'm kind of standing at this place with this really big door where I've opened all these little ones along the way. And some of them opened and gave me great opportunities. Some of them got slammed in my face. Some of them I walked through and went, whoa, I should not be in this place. But I've gone through all of my Alice in Wonderland and now here I am at this big door and it's pretty daunting because I have to make a big change in my world right now. And in order to do so, all of those little things have got me in a place where I feel strong enough that I can.
Mm.
And even though I'm scared shitless, I'm still ready to rock and roll, But it
Yeah.
took me making those little changes along the way in order to feel the way that I feel right now. So
But I'm so happy you made those changes
I
and that
know
you are continuously making those changes because
I'm working.
it's
I'm
also,
doing the best I can right now,
you know
Buster.
what? That's all you can do though, Lyndsay. And the fact that you're sharing your journey though publicly, I think is just awesome. From the standpoint, it gives not only hope to everyone else, but it also just shows that there is a process that any one of us can participate in,
Yeah.
and I think, once we really plug in and we recognize that like, let's be frank, it's more fun to go travel on a journey with other people. I mean, it's one thing to try to do it by yourself, but I'll tell you, like, as a kid, I didn't do myself favors by doing all that stuff on my own initially. Like all the activities, the bike rides, I gravitated to doing individual sports because I always felt still awkward around other people. I never did team sports. I avoided them. And so I ended up doing a lot of solo stuff, which didn't help with me coming out of my shell, so to speak, and connecting with people without alcohol. And so, there's sort of that balance that we're trying to find, or harmony is probably more appropriate. It's not so much balance as it is just trying to figure out how do we get everything to work together synergistically. And that's often easier said than done.
Well, I know. We can sit here and be our bully pulpit over here and be like, stop
No
eating sugar.
kidding. So what about you and alcohol? I'm just curious. Like, what's your alcohol journey been? How did it fit into the whole
Oh
lifestyle
my
and
God.
equation?
It's been a very, very long journey. I started drinking when I was 9. And
Wow.
that started, I know, and that started because
Yeah.
I was an insomniac. And so my grandpa told my parents just give her a little hottie toddy, right? To help her
Oh,
sleep.
yes. Right.
The
Yeah.
the 70s and the 80s. They're so good to us. And now we're like,
Yeah.
great. Now my life is completely falling apart because of this stuff. No, but it feels like that some days, of course, for everybody. But yeah, no, it started at such a young age to help me with my insomnia, but it ended up not helping me with insomnia. Hello. All it did was increase my anxiety and make me immediately fall into both of my biological parents definitely have issues with their alcohol and their drinking. So
Mm.
I come from that. Even in our marketing world and our advertising world, I mean, drinking is cool and it's sexy and it makes you prettier and it makes you find more cute boys and cute girls. I mean, that we are literally just marketed that this is the way that you're supposed to live and supposed to do things. And I was absolutely party animal, crazy, out of control, rebellious, the whole 9 yards. And everybody that knows me know this is just to be true. And I've gotten myself into some pretty gross situations, some of which were my fault, some of which were not. And I've had to unpack, and I like that word you used it earlier in the episode, but I've had to unpack a lot of the reasons as to why that stuff was happening. And I didn't really know and I didn't really understand it until I started this show. It's very expensive therapy.
Yeah.
doing a podcast.
It's worth it, right? It's worth
It
it.
is so worth it because I'm meeting people like you along the way too that bring to light that have experienced similar things to myself. And of course, I've guessed that I don't have anything similar with, but it is really eye-opening to me to hear success stories and how they've done it and how alcohol has played a role in their life. And almost everybody I talk to has had it play a role in their life, good, bad, and ugly. And so it is part of my journey. And it's something that's been slowly kind of, I have my days where I'm like, I don't care. I'm drinking a bottle of wine tonight. That's what's happening. So everybody can just bite me, you know? So don't tell me about it the next morning. I already know. So
I
that's
love
the
it.
stuff that, you know,
Yeah.
that is one of my big heavy doors here that I'm looking at as even though I'm not drinking like I used to, I'm still drinking. And there's a part of it that I'm like, God, you know what? I'm just not, my sweetie doesn't drink at all. So that's good for me too. Cause you know, my ex-husband was a, if you can't beat him, join him kind of a situation. So I got pretty dark in my last marriage. And it was my last, like I've had like 30 of them, but I mean, you never know with this one. Anyway, so so basically what it came down to is I'm facing, you know, making a decision to either completely stop it or do what I've been doing, which is just slowly but surely tapering it down. But then, you know, the element of, you know, moderation is not for everybody. And it's a scary place to be because you're afraid of who you are without it.
That's
And
it. Thank
yeah,
you.
thank
You hit it
you.
right
I'm
there.
here all
Bang.
day.
Spot on.
Yeah,
Oh my
because you
gosh.
are. And
Yeah.
it is something that I'm like, am I going to lose my zest for life? Am I going to like lose this stellar personality of mine? Is my sense of humor going to go all the way? Hey, I've been doing great right now and I haven't been having anything to drink. So, so I have to remind myself of that stuff too. It's just when all you know is basically almost 40 years of drinking, you and in the middle of our life, because we're at the, you know, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to make it to 90, let's be real, but it's like, it's scary. It's daunting because I don't know what's on the other side of that door, but I know that it's probably going to be better than all of the skeletons and all the closets that I've been trying to climb out of for so
Yes.
many years. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's empowering. It is. It's scary, but empowering.
Well, and thank you for sharing that.
And thank you for asking the question. So
No, I think it's important to know because I know we're all, listen, no one gets out of this unscathed, right? Like
right, yeah.
we're all got our battle scars. And I think the biggest thing I took away from what you just shared was this awareness and intention around drinking. And what I mean by that, it's not mindless drinking. Like even just you said, well, screw it. Tonight I'm having a whole bottle of wine. You're consciously saying I'm doing that. Like it's not like it just happens by accident. It's not just habitual,
yeah,
mindless drinking, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I tell people, like, listen, I like pie just like the next person, okay? And I love pumpkin pie. We're coming into the season right now, right? And I love pumpkin pie. I think it's great. I won't eat a whole pie. I won't eat it every day, but I enjoy it, just like I enjoy a piece of cheesecake from time to time. But when I'm eating it, I'm not there thinking, oh, you know, as I'm putting a mouthful into my mouth, you know, that
I am this
forkful of
horrible
food.
person.
Exactly, because that's how most of us feel because these foods have been vilified by the media. It's evil. Those are bad foods, right? And meanwhile, they're part of life. We enjoy those. We're having a wonderful experience, maybe with a great group of friends out for dinner. And it's like, you know what? I want a piece of cheesecake. I'm choosing to eat this and I'm going to love every bit of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to allow myself to feel guilty about it, you know, because I'm aware of my decision. It's not an everyday thing. It truly is a treat, you know? And so it's that awareness of how much are we being influenced in our belief system, specifically when it comes to how we nourish ourselves. And because that is, I think, the biggest challenge we have as a society, specifically in North America, because we are constantly being bombarded with negative messaging, especially around the diet culture and vilification of food. So, of course, we're going to feel guilty every time we eat it because we've been told we should.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Man, it's awful, right? It's all like I keep thinking Austin Powers, and you remember Mike Myers played a certain character.
Oh,
And he's like,
yes, I do know what this movie is.
I eat because I'm sad, and I'm sad because I eat.
That's
right?
exactly right.
It is. It's a cycle, and it is a hard one to break, but it's not impossible. But again, it comes with a lot of intentionality and specific actions. But the thing that I want to leave people with and really stress on this point, you're going to start to feel good. You know, and when you start to feel good, you're going to start to see things differently, especially how you look at yourself. You're going to start to look at life differently. Your relationships will change. Your sleep quality will change. You yourself will change. And it's a positive evolution. It's not a negative thing to run from. And just be prepared as you experience these changes. It's okay to feel good and proud of yourself. It's okay to celebrate yourself because you should. Those changes matter not only for you, but for everybody around you. And so celebrate them, have fun with those changes, and as you start to warm up with that, you're going to find that it just starts to happen more and more without even really thinking about it.
That's what I love about it. That's what I love about change is when you put so much effort out into it. And then you're like, wow, wait a second. That was a little hard there. And then it got a little easier. And then it gets a little easier. And then it gets a little easier. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a good way to leave us today.
Yeah. And hey, the last little part, like I know we've talked a bit about change here, Lyndsay, and I gotta say, there's 3 questions that I like to just leave everybody with. So the first question is, can I do this? Can I actually do the change? Can I get healthy as that 15-year-old boy, right? Like, can I get healthy? You start, and what this does is it shines a big spotlight on where you might have gaps in knowledge, but also gaps in your perspective of self. It's going to identify those right out of the gate. But we have to work through it to get to a place where we can say, hell yeah, I can do this. I might not know how to do it, but I know I can do this, because once you start to learn and you start to grow and you start to change, you realize, okay, this is just a process I can follow. Once you've got a yes to that one, you have to ask yourself question 2. If I do this, will it actually work? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how many people I talk to and have spoken to in the last 30 years being in the fitness industry, that are like, I've tried that diet before and it didn't work. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, did it not work or you not work it? It's like, which is the which here, right? Like,
oh, well done.
But it's true, right? Like, did you truly follow through on this? Now, question 3, is it worth it?
Oh, hell yes, it's worth it.
But here's the thing, and Lyndsay, you've gotten to this point already, and so have I at my various stages, but we have to be able to look in the mirror and say, am I worth it? And that's not always easy to answer. And if you can't, answer that question wholly and with ultimate confidence that, yeah, I'm worth it, because it implies that, again, self-perspective, self-love, even that self-actualized version of us. Are we truly leaning into that place for us to be the best version of us? Sometimes we've been beat up so bad and dealt with so much hardship, so many challenges. We're just like, I don't even know if I'm worth it anymore, But those 3 questions, I don't care what kind of change you have to navigate, those questions will be very introspective, but also very deliberate in how they can help you identify the next steps. And then it's just a matter of taking the steps. Like, that's it. Nothing fancy here. Actually, you just got to do the work.
Oh, man, you blew it. It was nice talking to you.
But you know what I mean, right?
I do. It's so easy to say you want to do all of these things and you have intention to do it, but then you don't do the work and you're like, well, I wonder why that didn't work out. You're like, because you didn't do anything about it.
And then we get upset at ourselves because we didn't see any results. But then if you actually say, well, did I track actually how many times I went to the gym? Oh, geez, I went once in the last 3 weeks. Well, I guess it's not really that program that didn't work. I just didn't go and work, it is seeing those gaps in ourselves, those accountability gaps and integrity gaps. And I know it's not easy because it's not easy to say, yeah, you know what? I'm lying to myself, but it's okay to acknowledge that you are, and you don't have to accept it. You can start to change it, and I laugh at change because I think change is hard. Okay. It is, it just is, but it's not impossible. And once you get started on that path, like Lyndsay, you're a wonderful example of this, like things get better.
They do. And they dip a little bit and you're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that slide down there. And then you're like, whoa, okay, why did I just slide? And then you figure that out and then you kind of climb back up again and see if you get higher before you have to slide back down. But through that, you learn and you learn about yourself and you learn about your worth. And you also learn about who's most important in your life and who to. And I can tell you, I've made my group of friends and family and the people that love and support me is a wonderful, small knit group of people. I call it my personal board of directors.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, you can lift it if you want to.
Thank you.
It's because I wanted to keep people around me that were just that were going to be like, what? I don't care how gross you look like in the morning when you wake up. I still love you. The people that will always be there for you in your life. And I think that that's very important. And I'm glad to have met you because you're a real force of nature.
Oh, well, like I said earlier, I'm just dishing back what you're already dishing. So, it's been absolutely wonderful. But also, I just before we go our separate ways today, I just got to say, and I want everyone to really take note of this is, I've had lots of great conversations in my life, but our first connection, I was
Yeah.
like, holy, here's a dynamo, but here's someone that more importantly is on a mission.
Yes.
And it's a clear mission, and you're inviting all of us to not only observe, but also participate and come along for it and empower ourselves. And I just want to say thank you, because I know it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of resources to constantly putting out what you're putting out. And I just want to say thank you. Like, it's nice to have an example of what's possible. Yeah.
Well, thank you. You're making me tear up right now. This
Thank
is
you.
the labor of my love, that is for sure. And yes, I am on a mission to give my pain purpose, and by doing so, for sure, if I help one damn person, then it's going to be a million more.
Hell yeah!
I know.
Well, it helped me, so thank you. And,
well, thank you so much for your time with us today. It's been, I can't believe how long we've been talking already. I'm like, oh my God, that flew by. We didn't think we were going to have problems with talking. That's for
we
sure.
Didn't.
So where can we find you online so I can have all of these beautiful people look at your beautiful face and look more into what you do and what you're all about?
Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn are the 3 platforms I'm most active on. And I always just say, just drop me a note. Say, hey, I heard you and Lyndsay talking about change. This is what I'm working on changing. I love to hear people's change stories or what they're working towards. That gets me really excited. I love hearing about what's working for people, what's not, and maybe even having the opportunity to help them. So reach out to me on those. It's just Dai Manuel. And if you're looking for some free resources just to help you with navigating life, I've got so much content on my website. I'm an OG when it comes to blogging. And I know there's people out there, oh, you're an original gangster. No, old guy. Okay. I've been blogging since 2007, a long time.
Wow.
1,800 articles on my website. 1,800.
That's a lot, dude.
I'm not going to apologize for the rabbit hole, but enjoy it. But thank you again, Lyndsay. This has been absolutely wonderful. And I know it's hopefully the first of many more conversations to happen yet.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so very much. I've loved every moment being with you today. Thank you. You are exclusively invited to share this empowering, harmonious, and almost sugar-free VIP pain journey together. Let's get to the heart of how to heal with you by my side. And not unlike what Dai was talking about, hey, if you love anybody that's living in and with chronic pain or has health issues, reach out to either of us. Slip into our DMs. We will absolutely connect each other with each other. This is what we're here to do. And while you're doing that, if you have a chance, if you can review the show, that helps us help other people as well to bring, stinking Apple with their reviews. We have to make them happy. And it will make me happy too. So thank you so very much. Please follow the Pain Game podcast wherever you digest your podcast content. We will be there. Visit us at thepaingamepodcast.com and follow us on all the socials. Thanks for listening, my little VIPs. Catch you on the other side.